Good morning, seventh graders. I'm sure many of you are really excited right now because school has been canceled. But today, what we're going to try to do is um, do an online video for you. So if you're at home today, you should take a look at this. It won't be very long, and you can kind of keep up with what we're doing in class. So, as you remember, yesterday I told you that this was going to be a two-part lesson. We talked about sponges yesterday. We talked about characteristics of sponges, some of the reproductive cycles, and really just what a sponge is composed of. And today we're going to kind of switch gears and talk about cnidarians. Now, you think back to your web quest that you did earlier this week and before break, one of the categories that I had you look at was stinging cells. And I think a lot of times we group stinging cells with cnidarians because it is one of the largest characteristics of this group, and we'll be talking more about that a little bit later. So, a little bit discussion on sea anemones, jellyfish, and coral today. So let's begin. I was having a little bit of trouble with my screen today, so if it's a little small, just kind of bear with me. Anyway, what is a cnidarian? Cnidarians are invertebrates that have stinging cells and take food into a central body cavity. Okay, a lot of, like I was saying, stinging cells, what are they? Okay, so jellyfish, for example, have little tentacles, or a sea anemone have these little tentacles on them that if you were to touch them, they have like a little, I guess we can use the word harpoon that would go into the creature, whatever is touching it or attacking it, and it releases like a toxin that can be deadly or maybe just cause some discomfort. So it's saying, hey, don't mess with me. But that's how they get food as well. A lot of times, jellyfish, little fish, or plankton, or whatever it is, swims into their tentacles, and the stinging cells actually paralyze it, and it allows the creature to feed that way. Okay? Um, and we're going to be talking a lot about the central body cavity today because it's going to really break cnidarians into two main groups for us. Um, when we talk about the body cavities, it's either going to be on top of the animal or underneath the body structure of certain creatures. Okay, um, when we're talking about symmetry, the first type of symmetry we learned about in this chapter was bilateral symmetry. Remember, bilateral symmetry only has one line of symmetry that um, the creature is allowed to be, get the mirrored image off of, like humans or tigers or most animals that we think of. But we did talk a little bit about radial symmetry, and cnidarians actually exhibit this radial symmetry. Remember, the body plan has to be in a circular fashion or around a central axis. Okay, so if you look at these two creatures, we have the first one that, or if you look at a top view of the polyp and the bottom view of the medusa, you can see how it's centered around that central axis, and we could have multiple lines of symmetry um, that allow us to give that radial symmetry to this animal. Okay, I thought I'd put this on there. I thought it was kind of cool. We do talk about stinging cells and how dangerous actually are they, and they can actually be very very dangerous. I've been asking many of you in class, how many of you have been snorkeling or scuba diving, and I saw a few hands go up. But one of the main rules is when you go out, you're not supposed to touch anything, and I told you for two reasons. A, it can actually damage or hurt the sea life that's down there from the oils or whatever's on your hand. And second, we don't know what some of these creatures are capable of. Some of them have stinging cells that can be very, very deadly. And this one, for example, has a type of cyanide in it that, if touched, could actually be deadly. So they are a force to be reckoned with sometimes. Small but deadly. And I put another one on here. I believe this is the box jellyfish. And it gave us a little example of what could actually happen. And I did a little research on this, and it has actually stung people, and these are some of the symptoms they've got from it. So it says a sting from this little guy can cause the following: It begins with a mild sting, followed by severe lower back pain, muscle cramps in the arms, legs, stomach, and chest. It causes sweating, anxiety, nausea, vomiting, headaches, and also been known to cause cardiac failure, which means it stops your heart. So, like I said, although small, they can be deadly. So that's what the stinging cells are all about. Okay, so the two body plans that I was talking about a little bit earlier all has to do with that central cavity and where it's located. So the first one, like in this diagram right here, the polyp, polyps would be like your sea anemones, the coral reefs start as polyps and they develop as their lives go on. But if we start with the polyp, it says a sac-like attached stage with a mouth and tentacles. So the mouth of these creatures is at the very, very top. And they take food in from these tentacles, they sting it, and they bring food down into their mouth. Versus the medusa, where we think of it kind of like an upside down bowl. And if we go underneath the animal and to take a look at the top view, the mouth would be underneath. So the tentacles would sting the creature and bring whatever it is up to that cavity. So we have the mouth on top and the mouth on bottom. And another way to identify a medusa versus a polyp is the medusa is like a bowl-shaped body structure. Okay, moving on to how they reproduce. Sponges yesterday, if you remember, one of their special features was they can either reproduce sexually or asexually, which is kind of a unique characteristic to have. Cnidarians can't do that. They can only reproduce sexually. So that means that two parents are involved. So we have a male and a female. The egg is fertilized and then goes into its adolescent stage, where it then develops into a polyp and to the adult form, in this case, the medusa. And all this diagram is showing is there's a few different steps of a life cycle. And when we think of life cycle, think of like the frog, for example. Starts off as an egg, develops into a tadpole, into the lesser of adult stage, into the frog. So there's a couple of steps that it needs to go through in order to reach its adult stage. So sexual reproduction is how they reproduce. Okay, the last part of our presentation today, I wanted to touch a little bit on coral reefs because they are one of the most important parts of marine life, and we'll get to that in just a second. But to define what I titled it Life in a Colony, and many times when we refer to coral reefs, we think of it as a colony because we find corals in colonies or groups where many individual animals live. At the beginning of its life, a coral polyp attaches to a solid surface. So in this case, remember when I said the medusa, if we were using a polyp, for example, it would go through a similar life cycle where that polyp would attach to a rock or something very, very hard and begin its life. And that's exactly what corals do, is that egg gets fertilized and the polyp finds a spot to attach itself and then start growing. And the unique thing about a coral is that when it starts developing, it creates a hard, stony skeleton around its soft body. If the corals didn't do this, they would most likely be picked off or eaten by other things or destroyed by currents or whatever it is. So many of you have been on vacation and brought back like a white coral. That's actually just the skeleton of this polyp. And they come in many different shapes and sizes. They're kind of cool. So it's kind of like armor for their body. But why are these important? I think many of you have heard that coral are like the rainforest of the oceans. And I think that's very, very true. Again, those of you that have been to coral reefs or seen them, you know that there is many, 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 many different types of life forms there that really depend on the reefs for a lot of things: food, protection, a lot of fish or animals reproduce there. So they create this environment for a lot of different things that without them they wouldn't have. So tomorrow in class we're going to be talking a lot about environmental stewardship and what as people we can do to try to help these these ecosystems out and uh, really help them survive so they're around for many generations to come. But unfortunately, we are seeing these disappear at a really, really rapid rate. So it is a concern and something that I want you to be aware of, so we can maybe do something about it in the future. Okay, well, that is the end of our presentation today. If you had a chance to get on here, that's awesome. You are ahead of the game. Like I said, tomorrow we are going to continue on, and you'll have an assignment with this tomorrow. So if you had a chance to look at this today, kudos to you. Otherwise, enjoy your day off, and we will see you tomorrow in class. Have a great day.